Welcome to Grow Big TV.
Laughing out loud, but I'm still learning. You're on Grow Big TV. On Grow Big TV.
And here's Joe and Korky. Hello, everybody. It's not Joe and Korky tonight, because tonight I have a special guest. I have Casey with Boots and Bounty, and I'm so excited to have her on as a guest tonight. So thank you all for coming in. Thank you to all of our members as well. Yeah, so Joe can't be here tonight. Sorry, I knew what I was gonna say, but it didn't come out. So Joe can't be here tonight because he is doing stuff with a job that he got. So he has been busy with that. Let's see. I hate being so large. Why do they have me so big? Nope, that doesn't work either. I don't know what's going on, but I'm huge. So first I want to go from the top of the list like we always do. So first and foremost, looks like Serena was in the house first. So thank you so much for coming in. We have Built on the Rock Homestead. God's Desire for Me. Thank you for coming in. Troy Sutton, thank you for being here. Garden State So-and-so. Thank you so much. Please, you guys, make sure to share us out and everything like that. You share us out, more people get in the house, more people help out Grow Big TV and help us to expand more. If you haven't had a chance, you need to check out tonight in the video portion of Grow Big TV, because we did put out a video. So you want to check that out. Hey, Jay Dixon, thank you for being here tonight. And let's see, who else is popping in? Thank you, Jane Doe. My poor garden last week, it was swarming with mosquitoes. I couldn't go outside without getting attacked. Then in the past 24 hours, I've had 7 inches of rain. Yes. Rain, yes. It's been weird, though, here. And it's just been hot and miserable. So with everything being said, tonight's topic is blossom and rot. So we were going to talk about that. And then Casey can also talk about her garden, what she has going on with her garden. She is in Tennessee, so it's a little different than New Jersey and Northeast Ohio. So let's go ahead and we'll bring her up. It's okay, Jay. It's okay. You're always here on a normal basis, so it's no big deal. So, hey, thank you for coming on. And thank you for being a guest tonight. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
So, okay, tonight was the topic of blossom and rot. So the reason why I wanted to talk about that is because we had issues with blossom and rot. And I'm not the only one. I'm in a specific, sorry, I keep clearing my throat. I have something going on. I'm not the only one that had issues this year. I'm in a gardening group.
Yeah.
And everybody has had issues. They have no idea. Most people have no idea when they pull off their tomato. They're like, oh my gosh, what is this? Like, what's going on with my tomatoes? I don't understand. And so, yeah, so we have done a lot of fixing the soil and stuff like that this year. Casey, have you had issues with blossom and rot this year or in the past?
No, not really. If I have problems, the only problems I have are with Romas. But that being said, I put lime on my garden, and lime is a form of calcium. So that should take away, any problems that I'm going to have with blossom and rot, other than the Roma tomatoes, and I'm just about done with them. It's not my favorite to grow. And so if it's going to have a problem with my garden, then I don't need it in it.
Yeah.
Hey, Robin. Hey, Wendy. That being said, yes, I do put lime on my garden every year, and hopefully that's going to handle that problem. Now, if people do not use lime on their gardens, there are several other options. Do you want to go ahead and talk about that? We'll just jump into it here.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
I
So,
did a couple things.
okay.
Hey, Cosmic Cultivators. What's up,
Hey.
guys? Thanks for coming in. Thank you. Oh, by the way, thank you to all our members. Thank you guys for being members of Grow Big TV and always being here and supporting us, sharing us out, stuff like that. We really appreciate you being here tonight. There's a couple things that I do as well. And this year we tried a new thing, which was we ground. And if you see the video we put out, you'll see what we did with that is we amended the soil with eggshells. And that typically is not something that you want to put on. Like if you see blossom end rot right away, that's something that you don't want to put on
Correct.
because it's going to take 100 years for you to get that calcium in your soil. And by the time that happens, your tomatoes will be rotten to the core. So it's a really, really, really slow process. And another thing that we also do is we do the lime. We use garden lime, and we actually make it in a slurry, and we put it on. This year we've had to put it on a couple times. It was just, and it was because of that one bed. We decided to put the tomatoes in there this year.
Yeah.
And it was just like right off the bat. We would have had ripe tomatoes by now if it wasn't for wasn't for that. So,
so I wanted to mention something. Now you said there was one bed, that you planted tomatoes in because you rotated your garden. Now, that being said, yes, what happened is something that you had in there before probably drew all that calcium out. So yes, it needs to be replaced back in the soil. And that's what happens sometimes when people have gardens and they only have one certain thing, that does it. Like my aromas, for some reason, it's just that variety for me that has such a problem. But it may be one area like you that just is depleted, and that's okay. Another reason, let's talk about, reasonings of why it happens. Now, a lot of built on a rock, a lot of people are getting water. And what happens is if you get too much water or over water, people will say in these gardening Facebook groups, they'll say, oh, it's too much water. Oh, your variant of water is the problem. And yes, now let me explain why. Because when you give it too much water or not enough water, it takes it in inconsistently. The calcium absorption is non-consistent. And so that's when you start getting the tomato temperaments of the end rot, is because it's telling you something is wrong. And so then you kind of have to do some navigating to figure out what the problem is. And a lot of times, if you're getting a lot of rain, yes, it's going to cause rot. But if you're also going through a drought, which is what our problem is, mostly with the aromas, because my aromas have no gelatin inside of them, they're dry. And that's why they get the blossom end rot, is because it's just too dry here for them. And that's why I've decided I'm not going to plant aromas again, because this is the third year in a row that they've done that, and I'm done with them. I don't need them. I'm done with them. But that could also be a cause. Now, to add on to the lime part, there is gardening lime, which is also called hydrated lime, which is also the same lime that you pickle in. So a lot of times what I do is when I make sweet pickles or dill pickles, and I've done the 3-day process where you soak them for 24 hours in lime water, I will actually take that lime water out and put it in my garden. And that's part of that replenishing system that I have. Instead of going out and buying, this lime and this lime and this lime, I'll just use one lime and just kind of, do a closed system of replenishing it back to the earth. See if I can think of anything else. Oh, some ways while we're talking about trying to fix it, other than lime, is like you said, the eggshells.
yeah.
Eggshells, no matter what you do to them, whether you put them out there crushed or powdered or whatever, they do take at least 2 years to break down. So if you put them on now, you're actually helping your garden 2 years from now, not right now. And, a lot of people understand that, but they still want to crack that egg underneath their tomato plants and put it in there. And that's fine. You do that. That's fine. It's not going to help this year's, though. A lot of people will put Tums in their under their tomato plants, which is excellent. You can actually grind up calcium tablets, like if you were taking them orally, as a prescribed or over-the-counter medication. you can do that and crush up your calcium, or you can just stick it down beside your tomato plant, and that the rain is going to dilute it and the plant is going to absorb it. So that would be kind of a quick fix if you have a long enough growing time where you can get all the tomatoes off that have it, and then see if it's going to help with the next round. And usually that comes after your hot spell, because tomatoes don't like to produce, over 90 degrees, which is a lot of places right now.
Yeah.
It may be another month or so before you actually see if it worked.
Yeah, it's very frustrating when you're growing. And honestly, there are sometimes you don't even know that you have a calcium deficiency unless you test your soil. And to be quite honest, your backyard gardeners are not testing their soil all the time. They're not that technical. It's not like that. So most of the time you don't know until you start seeing that black bottom on your tomato plant. And by then, most methods that you use is a little too late.
Yeah.
So, the gardening lime works out perfect. But we did the powdered eggshells. My husband's been saving those for months. We had a huge bucket full. We put them in the oven, and then we ground them up really good. And we toss those on the garden. And hopefully, and we know it's not going to be this year, but I'm hoping to replace what we have lost in that bed. So,
yeah, I mean, you've got to learn from your plants, what your soil needs, because like you said, we're not testing our soil every year or every season. You're supposed to test every growing season. But, if you're like me, you have different sections that you tend to like growing things in. And, sometimes it tends to be like, I plant my tomatoes in the same spot every year because I have trellises set up for them.
Yeah.
I grow them on cattle panels, and that's just, the way it is. I plant my tomatoes there because I don't want to have to move those trellises every year. And, so you've got to listen to those plants and they're going to tell you what your garden needs. And funny enough, that was how I got started on YouTube. That was my very first video. It was titled, Listen to Your Plants, They Will Talk to You. And I had this tomato plant. It was a little cherry tomato plant. And what I did was I planted, this is when we lived in the city. So I took a 55-gallon drum and I put 4 T-posts all the way around it so it wouldn't fall over. I put a mineral bucket on top, and I planted my tomatoes on top so they would grow over and hang down. So I went out on my lunch break one day, and I was like, what is wrong with my tomato plant? And so I go over there and start investigating, and I find out that the drainage hole is stopped up and my tomatoes are drowning. So when Stephen gets home, I'm like, you've got to come help me. So he comes home and he gets the drill. So we go out there and we start drilling in the back of this thing, and we get out 5 gallons of water out of this thing, and it was absolutely drowning. So it was crazy, but it was trying to tell me something was wrong. And that was my very first YouTube video, like 4 years ago.
I love that. I didn't know that.
Yep. That was how I got started.
That's
because
awesome.
Everybody kept telling me, people just don't know the stuff, and I try to make it easy. And so that was my first video of getting my feet wet in YouTube. So
interesting.
Okay. Hang on just a sec. Serena, potato plants are dying. Should I stop watering them? Okay. What kinds of potatoes and where are you located at? Because depending on what they are, they may be done at this point. If they are not potatoes that should be done at this point, and they're watering, and you're watering them a lot, yes, I would slack down.
Yeah.
But if it's too hot on them, the sun could be scorching them. So I don't know exactly where you are. Because my potatoes, the whites, the reds, the yellows, those were harvested last month because I'm in Tennessee. My sweet potatoes, they won't be done until October. So it just depends on which ones. Let's see.
Blue Adirondack potatoes planted March 29th, Oklahoma, Zone 7A.
Oh, yeah, girl. Those should be done.
Yeah.
Those are done.
Yeah.
Yep. Have at it. Hey, Miss Nancy.
And so, yeah, I have a market garden, and then I have a regular just heirloom tomatoes. So my market garden's kicking butt right now. I don't have any calcium issues. Every year I do put an egg in the hole. So it's probably sucking that egg out from last year. But I stopped doing the egg thing because I was getting raccoons coming into the garden, pulling. Yeah, they smell it. Oh, and I stopped using fish emulsion because of that reason as well. Because you kept it's great. It works great in the garden. I love it.
Yeah,
but it's bringing in Ricky the raccoon and all of his cousins.
Yeah.
So, I was really angry. It was like 7:00 in the morning. My husband came home from work and he's like, "Hey, I'm letting you know that all of our tomato plants are dug up. They weren't hurt. We had just planted them. They literally pulled them up, tossed them aside, and ate the egg out of every hole."
Oh, that is funny.
72 tomato plants.
Oh my gosh.
I was so furious. So I was out there in my pajamas, putting them back in the hole. So I stopped using stuff that was super stinky because of that. And though it's super stinky and it probably works really great on your garden, it draws in everything, you know.
It does. And that is, I want to say that's kind of where compost piles started. Because now, okay, you compost people that do your little compost bins, that's fine. And that's okay, because what she's talking about, yes, if you do it in your garden, the animals are going to come in your garden and do it. But that's where I think compost bins kind of originated from, was because everybody was always putting their, scraps on their garden. And animals would come in and they would eat it. They would dig everything up. They would tear everything up. So they're like, okay, well, this is the problem. We're going to take it out. And that's where they created compost bins or compost piles and all of that. So that's my idea of kind of where that came from. But also you got to think too, whenever you do put stuff like that directly on your garden, it's actually, great. Ricky the raccoon. That's actually the best way, because what's also going to happen is if you can put a garden up, a fence up and keep the critters out, which can get pretty costly, and I understand, but actually if you're putting everything on there, those worms are doing all the tilling for you. You're feeding the worms. So therefore you don't have to have a worm farm on the outside, and you're having to bring all this stuff in and put it back on your garden. You can do it all in one spot. You can have your compost, you can fertilize your garden, you can grow big stuff, you can have your own worm farm all in one spot, and you don't have to do all this moving and flipping and topping and all this stuff. If you can get it to where you can do everything in one spot, it's so much easier. But I understand that's where everybody started separating everything, is because what I believe to be all the animals coming in and was messing everything up. So they just kind of separated everything and fixed that problem. So, but in my eyes, in my opinion, they made more work for themselves.
Yeah.
Because now you have to flip it, the compost bins. You have to move all this stuff from 1 to 2 to 3, and then you have to top dress your gardens, and then you're feeding your worms on the side, and then you got to take all your castings and put it back on the garden, and it gets to be so much, and everybody just freaks out because it's so much. But
and you guys, tomatoes, that's the number one thing that everybody hears about, is getting blossom and rot. But you can get blossom and rot in pretty much any of your plants, which including peppers. I've seen people this year getting blossom and rot in their zucchinis. Zucchinis are really heavy feeders. So I know in the past I have had really giant zucchini plants, and I've gotten a lot of zucchini off of them, but I had put a lot of stuff in that bed prior to me planting it. But I know a lot of people this year, from what I have seen, had yellow ones that came out like all deformed and rotting and everything else. That, and I think the rain also had a lot to do with that as well, because if it constantly rains, it doesn't give any chance for any of those to dry out at all.
Yeah. I use coffee, Serena, on mine. I use my coffee grounds, and I literally just go out there and just sprinkle it on the ground. But yeah, you can brew it in the ice, with ice and rainwater. Yeah, sure. You can set it outside and just let the sun do its thing. If you want to do it that way. But my strawberries went absolutely nuts because I keep a cup over by my Keurig because I have the refillable cups. I don't use the actual single serve cups. I use the refillable cups. And so I'll take it out and knock it out in my little garden cup. And then once a week I'll take it outside and just sprinkle it on my strawberries. And I don't know that I'll do that again because I have so many strawberry plants. They went absolutely nuts. It's crazy.
But that's a good problem to have because I would totally be making strawberry jam. This year,
I did.
in the past, I didn't want to have a strawberry patch because they just take over everywhere. And
They do.
I have room, but I kept thinking about it. I'm like, do I want to set aside a space in my garden where they can just be free? I'm like, I don't like that idea.
Yeah, they
So
take
this was
over.
really the first year that I actually had a dedicated spot for them and actually had strawberries. But in the past, I just put them in my green stock or something and let
Yeah,
them do the thing.
I moved mine out of, well, okay, so last year was our first year here. And so we actually built our whole garden. I have a video if any of y'all would like to see that. It was from last year. I'll save you the trouble. Beginning to end, there's a video, so you don't have to watch all the little ones in between. But we did a beginning to end video on how we created our garden. And so I started out with 8 strawberry plants last year. And I'm to the point I'm fixing to go through with a weed eater because they have taken over a 4-foot wide bed that's like 20 foot long and have taken over my walkways and everything. And so I brought some up to my green stalk that I just got Mother's Day. And I brought some up and put them in there. And I'm seriously considering ripping them all out of my garden because I use them as a ground cover under my blueberries. And they covered the ground and the walkways and my grapes and the blueberry. They covered everything. And that's not what I intended for them to do because I thought the coffee just made them explode and I couldn't keep up with them.
Yeah,
So,
it's tough. Strawberries are one thing, and I got them outside of my beds now. Their runners are starting to stretch across the garden. Another major issue we had is should have never did this, but I wasn't thinking when I planted them, is we have raspberries and blackberries and stuff on the edge of our garden. And I planted them there before we had a garden. And I was like, okay, we can just control this, But now my husband just wants to rip them out. He's like, I'm done with these. He's like, we'll just put them back in the woods somewhere. I'm like, but I feel bad for ripping them out because they produced a lot for us throughout the years. But their runners are everywhere and they're popping up in the beds and they're creating a huge mess.
My blackberries don't run by root. If you let them touch the ground, that's where you mess up. I keep my single stalk cut at 6 foot. I keep the limbs cut at 3 foot, and then anything off of them are at 6 inches.
Oh, okay.
They never touch the ground. If they ever touch the ground, they root, and you will have a nightmare. I sold probably 100 blackberry plants because we moved last year to the garden, and we kind of didn't do anything else just because they were dead sticks at that point, and I just wanted them to root. Well, they rooted, and then they grew because they're on the end of the garden, and we don't go back there except to pick them. And so I didn't go back there, and I finally went back there, and they were like a jungle, and we were pulling up, and I was selling them. I was selling them $5 a plant. And I also did that with my raspberries. The raspberries, I planted 12, 6 lived, and I swear I have 6,000 of them out there now because they do come up by root. And I didn't know that because my daddies are always immaculate. I didn't know they come up by root. He forgot to tell me that. So when I got my plants from him last year, I just set them out. Okay, these are going to be good. We got a wire up and got them all, tied up and all that so they wouldn't be laying over. And by the time we noticed the blackberries, we noticed the raspberries had done come up and taken over both walkways on both sides. And we pulled up probably 20,000 plants, and the ones that survived, like the smaller ones that survived, I sold them for $5 a plant too. And I couldn't tell you how many I sold. It was several hundred of those plants that we sold. It was absolutely insane. And I said, please, if something happens to them, please let me know, and I've got more. I will replace them. But we finally just got a wheelbarrow out there at the raspberries and just pulled them and put them in the wheelbarrow so they never touch the ground, and just let them die. That's the only thing we could do, because I'm like, if we throw these things out in the weed patch, they're going to come up out there and they're going to take over out there.
Yeah, there's no getting, like, that's another thing too, is I don't understand people that actually have problems with their berry bushes, because I don't have that issue.
Yeah.
And I have 25 elderberry bushes.
Yeah.
And one of them is literally like 10 foot tall right now. I couldn't even reach the top if I wanted to. And then I have people showing pictures and stuff. What happened to my elderberry bushes? And I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, all I did was plant mine. Like,
yeah.
So, yeah.
Funny story about elderberries. I actually got mine 3 years ago from Simply Jan Homestead. So we were talking about it one time at a YouTube meetup we went to, and she was like, okay, I'll mail you one. Okay, well, she sent me 5. One survived because it got lost in the mail for like 3 weeks. So they show up, they're in perfect condition, they're blooming and everything. So I take all 5 canes out, I put them in my mineral bucket, because again, we were in the city at that time. I put them in my mineral bucket because at this point I know what I plant is going to have to move with me. So got them planted, one survived. That little thing come with us over here to this place last year, and it did really good. And it went out the bottom of the mineral bucket into the ground, all that good stuff. So it took, me and Steven both trying to beat this thing out of the bucket, trying to get it out. So we finally put it in the ground this spring, which I have a video on us doing. And it has, I don't know how many little babies underneath it. And this is its first year of actually producing. But, well, I take that back. It produced like maybe 2 or 3 little bitty tiny heads last year. And the birds got them. And now I have them coming up all over my property. The birds have pooped out these elderberry seeds, and now I'm picking elderberries from everywhere. I don't even need my little bitty one anymore. I just need my, all them other ones out there just growing and having their fun time growing by themselves. But yeah, I guess because we didn't have none there last year. And that's the only thing I can think of, is that the birds just kind of pooped them out, and now they're growing everywhere.
Right. Yeah. That's another thing that's really easy to cultivate is elderberry bushes. Yeah. And it really irritates me when I go to a garden center and they want $25 for an elderberry bush.
Yeah.
And I'm like, those are so easy to cultivate. They're just ripping people off. Like,
yeah. Yep.
So,
Working Blue, hello. Indiana Backyard Gardener. Do you know their name?
Yeah, her name is Adrian.
Adrian. Okay, I like to call people by their name. Somewhere around
I am horrible with names.
Somewhere around here, we started a list like 4 years ago. I don't even see it. I think it's over there under that stack of papers.
I am horrible with names, so typically I just call people by like their name that is on YouTube. Plus, I don't know how weird people are with using their real names on the internet.
And that's why I ask.
Yeah.
But we got a list. It's like 6 pages long of people's channels and the name that they want us to call them by. And so, yeah, I see where she said that she made my watermelon rind preserves. And I had somebody on there, bless them, that was like, this is not preserves, this is jam. Well, when you're going to get all technical about it, I don't care if you make it or not,
Wait, what's the difference between preserves and jam?
I don't really know, but I didn't grind the stuff up. So it's not like strawberry jam where you have like little chunks and it's blended up kind of thing. Oh. It's, I don't know. Whatever.
Why is this channel not blue? I know.
Oh, Be a moderator. That one's supposed to be a moderator, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. Oh, it's not blue because we only have 2 moderators. We in the beginning, Joe and I decided that we are not going to have that many moderators. We're not going to have people fight over moderating, and we chose 2 of almost the best moderators on YouTube. So Jay Dixon is one of them, and Jane Doe. So yeah, so that is all we are allowed to have. Plus our guests. If we have a guest, then they get a wrench, but it's really, it's like they rarely come in. So,
Hey, Gail, I've seen you slip in here a while ago.
but yeah, so we were talking earlier about Blossom and Rot, guys. I don't know how many of you guys out there have had issues with Blossom and Rot this year. I know I am been one of them, and it was mainly because typically I don't rotate my garden. I do rotate my beds, but my market garden always stays the same. This will be like the 5th year in a row. This fall, I have a ton of work to do because 5 years in a row, I can kind of tell that my tomatoes are not as grand as they were 5 years ago. So I have covering on them. So we're going to pull up all the covering. We're going to amend the soil really good and leave it sit all winter long. But I have trellises and stuff. So it's going to be a huge, huge undertaking to do that. I think that's why we haven't done that, because of that reason. And so we have rotated our heirloom tomatoes. And the first year we had them in bed number 1, then we had bed number 2, and now they're in bed number 3. And it's just completely depleted of calcium. So we have done a lot of things, and we actually had to use garden lime twice in that bed to kind of get it under control. The first sign of Blossom and Rot is that black spot where they look like they're rotting. You want to get on that right away, and you want to use something that is quick right away, because if you don't, then your entire bush, tomato plant, whatever, throughout the entire tomato season is not going to be good. It's not going to work out for you. Oh no, Blossom and Rot. I heard Haas Seeds tomatoes have been getting that, but it usually has to do with uneven watering, messing with the nutrient absorption.
Right.
Yep.
It doesn't matter who you buy your seeds from. It ain't got nothing to do with the seeds. It can be caused by uneven watering, like we were talking about earlier, because it doesn't absorb it consistently.
Yep.
Or it could just be straight up lack of calcium in your soil. It all has to start with your soil, whether it's nutrients or whether it's watering. You know, that's the only 2 answers, really.
With us, I know for a fact it is a calcium issue because I do not inconsistently water my tomatoes, and my one end, my market garden, I don't water that at all. We do a dry method of that. By the way, guys, if you're planting tomatoes in the ground, you can do the dry method. If you plant tomatoes in a bed or in a pot, you cannot do the dry method. You will kill your plants. Don't do that. But yeah, we do the dry method in our market garden. I do not water them. And if they look sad, then yeah. If we haven't got rain in a week, I'm going to water them just a little bit. But for the most part, I don't water them at all. And they look great.
That's a good idea. She said, Adrienne says she boils the eggs and then uses the water to water the tomatoes. And I was saying earlier, I don't think you were in here, is that my pickling lime that I use to make pickles, because I do the 3-day method, and I use that water, and I can go out there and pour it on the garden because it's the same thing as garden lime. It's all hydrated lime. It's pickling lime.
Yeah, it's Mrs. Cosmo said, it's been so dry and hot. It's crazy how much we have had to water this year. Oh, that's in New Hampshire, so that's weird. Here, I can tell though a little bit that my plants are struggling, and it's only because they're not getting the nutrition from the rain like they're supposed to. And I can water all I want from the hose, and go through there and water the crap out of them. I soak my cucumbers every day because it's been in the 80s and 90s. And it still is not enough. It's so funny because when I water with a hose and then a couple days if it rains, the next day my cucumbers are huge versus when I water with a hose because they're getting all that nitrogen, all that stuff from the rain.
Yep.
Let's see. Not watering here, guarantee plants die. My area is semi-arid lastly. Yeah, I definitely, you need to read up on the dry method. The reason why we do that is our tomatoes just taste better. Mm-hmm. They're not as watery. Right. A lot of people, when they water and then they pick the day after they water or whatever, their tomatoes are going to be real swollen and watery and just not taste good. So we do the dry method so our tomatoes taste the best that they possibly can.
Yep. Or you can pick them like at high noon, and that'd be the best way to get that saturation too of the flavor. When it's really, really hot and you don't want to be out there, is the best time to pick your tomatoes.
Oh, I know. I've been having okay, knock on wood. My head. Knock on wood. I have my very first watermelon. Okay, y'all, I suck at watermelon and cantaloupes and all that. I have my very first watermelon out there, and I have no bugs this year. None. I've worked so hard at that, and it's big. It's about this big, and I've been babying it. I go out there, I knock on it. I'm like, hi, how you doing? Nice to be here.
And I say that's funny because because I work from home. I'm a nurse. I work from home. And we have a chat. And so she chatted me today in our clinical team chat. And she said, look, Casey, I've got my first watermelon. I've never been able to grow one. And so she puts the picture in chat, and it's like hanging on a decorative fence kind of thing. And it's like that long, and it's hanging up on the fence. And I'm like, girl, you better put a bra on that thing.
Yeah, it'll rip right off that vine. That is hilarious.
And see, even in Tennessee, us being this hot, I've grown watermelons. I can grow cantaloupe just fine. The watermelon, it's like it never gets hot enough, long enough for them to be able to grow well. And so we end up, it being September, October, and I have big, pretty watermelons, but they're not ripe.
Yeah.
They just don't ripen. That's happened to me the last 3 years. Now, my family used to grow, like I'm saying, I was 10, 11, 12 years old driving the tractor, but we grew 5 acres of watermelon and 5 acres of cantaloupe. And we would spread out across the field, and we would, like, the adults that could handle them. That's just the reason why I drove the tractor, because I was 10, 11, 12 years old. But the adults would line up across the field, and they would take 2 rows each. And I would drive the tractor down the middle, and they would walk behind the tractor, and they would throw the watermelons and cantaloupe to the trailer. So they would toss them to each other and then load the trailer up in the middle. And that's why I grew them. But we never had any problems. But for some reason, I can't now, 20 years later, 30 years later. Showing my age.
Mr. Cosmic is great at melon hammocks. You guys are killing me. Okay, well, last year I had a huge big bug issue. I started feeding my soil, and I started doing that right from the beginning and feeding the microbes and stuff like that. And then we use Surround. We've been using Surround a lot. I have 0 bugs this year, and that is not normal. Like, usually I would have bugs like eating my cucumbers and eating my squashes and all that. And last year, I had a melon. Looked so good. I was so excited. I flipped that sucker over to just take a look at it, and bugs were it was just riddled with, I'm like, are you kidding me? My very first watermelon, I was so angry. So this year, I told my husband, I said, we're spraying that Surround everywhere. And I'm feeding the soil. We used biochar and everything. I said, we're not getting bugs. And we haven't. And I am so excited. I'm really hoping I can eat that watermelon at the end of the year. So excited.
I mean, really, only my daddy's always told me, because I've never really had any problem with bugs. And, people, even, just friends around here or whatever, or people on Instagram, Facebook, whatever, they'll write me and say, what can I do about this bug? What can I do about that bug? And I don't know. They're like trying to figure out what they can do. And I'm like, well, I can only tell you what I've seen other people do because I don't know. I've never had bugs like that. And I got to asking my daddy, I'm like, why do so many people have bug issues and we never have? He said, well, bugs only attack weak plants or ones that
Yeah.
the bugs know that are sick.
Yep.
Or like nutrient deficient or something like that. That's the only time you're going to have bugs. It doesn't matter how immaculate your garden is. If your
Yeah.
plants aren't healthy and your soil is not healthy, you're going to have bugs. So to get rid of them, you got to get healthy
Right.
stuff.
I'm usually a pretty helpful person. Like I usually tell people what's up or hey, how can I help you with that? Like what can I do? What kind of advice can I give you? So I'm in this gardening group and this woman put 7 dust all over her squash bugs. And I told her, I said, well, the reason why you're having such issues is because your pumpkin is diseased and you need to have healthier soil.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't being nasty. I just, I was as careful as I could be in that situation because some people get very
defensive.
Yeah, because it's their baby,
Yep.
She was not happy with me. She said she's an organic gardener and her garden is 100% organic. And, and I was like,
well, first of all, being
you
organic.
just doused your garden with 7 dust.
Right.
Oh.
People don't understand. You can go all organic. You can go as organic as you want to. But organic gardens are going to get attacked a lot more than, regular chemical people. If their soil is not healthy, if their garden is not healthy, they're going to get attacked more because, of course, all these bugs and everything nowadays are becoming resistant to everything. It doesn't matter anymore. They built an immunity to it.
Yeah.
And, so that's why a lot of people are having trouble fighting stuff. But,
right.
It all goes back to being healthy. I mean, even if we're not healthy, we get immune system problems. We get all these autoimmune problems. We get sick. If we're not healthy, that's the same thing. Those bugs and germs are attacking our body because we're not healthy. And so it's the same thing as your plants and stuff. Bugs are going to attack them when they're not healthy. We might not even know they're not healthy. Right. But the bugs are going to tell us that they're not.
This year, I don't know. It's taken me a while to actually understand the garden. Yeah, I can garden. I think most people can. But it has taken me at least the 5 years that I've been really hardcore doing it to actually understand what I'm doing. And this last year, I did biochar in my beds. I activated the biochar. I did everything that I needed to do. And then this year, I also put biochar when we filled our beds. And I, for the first time, have such healthy soil that I haven't even seen a bug. And that is so, I'm so excited about that because in years past, I've had heavy bug loads because I don't spray. I don't put anything on it. And I've just I was about to just go out there and do a little ditty, like dance, because I was so excited to not have that this year and to not just constantly go out there and flick squash bugs in some dish soap. And I've seen people this year using vacuums. They bought a special vacuum, cordless vacuum. They're just out there.
I see that. And it's funny, my dad, 7 dust is like the only thing that he has ever used. And it's the only thing I used for a long time. And I still do, but you got to know how to use it. Like I used it this year for the first time because I grew up with my daddy putting 7 dust, just going out there and just sprinkling it everywhere to get rid of them to begin with. If there was some kind of infestation, which was rare, but that's what I seen him do. So that's what I did. But I did use 7 dust for the first time this year, like maybe 2 weeks ago. And it was because my yellow squash, I got like 3 yellow squash off my plants, and I had like 6. I got 3 squash off of them, and they all started dying. Well, I've got vine borers underneath them and moles. I've got moles underneath them that were
Yeah.
eating the roots and eating the plants. And so I never seen anything until they started wilting. And then, of course, I'm like digging around the dirt trying to find out what the problem was. But I did. I literally went and got the 7 dust and just sprinkled it around the stems, all
Yeah.
of them, because I started seeing them go out one by one. And so I just sprinkled it around the bottom. And that's okay if you're willing to do something like that, but that's okay. The one thing you don't want to do is do it while the flowers are open, because it will kill the bees, you know. But I just put mine on the ground around the bottom of the stem. I didn't put it on the plant, you know. So
Yeah.
that's, you've got to learn how to use stuff like that responsibly if you're going to use something like that. It didn't matter if it worked or not, because I had to pull them all up anyways. They all died. So now I've got more that are in there sprouting, and I'm going to plant a second round here in a couple of weeks. And so I'll have some more. Maybe I'll get some this year.
Mrs. Cosmic says she needs to get some biochar. I bought my first bag at the event that me and Tammy did in Southern Ohio at the Food Independence Summit. There is Berlin seeds, and they have huge bags of it. And I got my first bag of Surround there as well. So I brought home that biochar, and you can use biochar also as a bug repellent. So you can break it up into a fine dust and put it on your leaves and stuff. And that it doesn't really kill the bugs, but it irritates them, and they don't want to be there. So I put that on my garden last year. I came out, I was black. It was like all over. I had it on my face, all over my hands. But I was like, these suckers are gonna die. I'm so mad. And so then this year, when we topped off, every year we kind of like lose a little dirt. So we topped off our beds, and we put a lot of amending stuff in there. I actually even put sour milk in my garden beds as well. I wanted to feed those microbes, and I wanted to put that biochar in there. And this year is the most microbe thingy, plant biology thing that I have ever done. And to see no bugs, I was like, I'm just amazed. I'm just absolutely amazed. So
That's
between
really good.
Surround and biochar this year, I've had an excellent year up until I had a rodent problem. I'm like, I don't have any bugs this year, of course. And then this year I have rats that are come into the garden and have eaten most of my cucumbers and stuff like that. So we just had a rodent problem this year.
I had rabbits, and I've had, when we bought the place, the backyard was just tore up from moles. And so that whenever we put our garden in, the first thing I did was I planted mole plants, and they're just coming up this year. It took them since last year to come up, but I finally got them coming up. And once you have them coming up, they reseed themselves and they go crazy, which I'm glad. I'm going to start moving them around, and hopefully I can get rid of them. But I had 3 rabbits, 3 field rabbits, 3 brown ones, and they would go through the chain link fence and get in my garden, and they would eat because I've got noodle beans this year. So they would eat all the bottoms of my noodle beans off, and they would eat the bottom of the stems on my green beans, and they decimated my second planting of green beans. They ate all the leaves off of them.
Man, that's so frustrating.
So I got some sonar mole things that you put in the ground, and we think that worked. We haven't seen much of anything. Hey, Jennifer. We haven't seen anything, eaten anything lately. We do. If you go on our community page, I posted Logan's link, because my son Logan has his own YouTube channel. You know, he snuck behind our back and got it and started posting stuff. So we watch it now. But he, while he was out there picking the green beans last night, he grabbed his phone and he videoed finding a nest in my green beans. My green beans are on a cattle panel trellis, so they hang down so we can pick them, and it's all fun and stuff. And so he videoed the nest, and it's got 3 little white eggs. It's got brown spots on them. And coming to find out, last night we were watching it because we hear the mama bird screeching at us when we're in there picking green beans. And we finally found her last night, and it's a mama cardinal. So we've got cardinal eggs.
Aw.
And I was like, do not touch that nest. You stay away from them eggs. But I've got a little brown mama cardinal out there that she's flying around and
Aw.
hollering at us. But I'm hoping we're going to have baby cardinals.
That'll be adorable. They're so cute. I think cardinals are so beautiful.
Yeah, we've had 2 sets that fly around our garden and stay out there a lot. So I was excited to see eggs, and then I was excited to see that it was cardinals. So I'm hoping that they're going to hatch and everything. She's doing a real good job.
Serena, don't get upset that your tomato plants have not produced, because there's lots of people right now that their plants have not produced. You still have a couple months.
Where is she at?
Oh, go ahead.
Where is she at?
She's in Oklahoma.
Oh, okay. That's kind of the same temp here. Now, mine last year took forever. They stayed green on the plant forever. And Daddy said that was absolutely fine because your tomatoes are going to be better that way. I don't really know why, but I guess it just soaks up all the flavor. But do you have any flowers? Yeah, big tomato plants. You got too much nitrogen. If you have tomato plants and no tomatoes yet, you need some more phosphorus. You need your phosphorus for your flowers, and then your potassium, your K, for your fruit.
Yeah, and so
and tomato plants.
Don't get upset about that, because
oh yeah,
I have tons of tomatoes. They're not even ripe yet, but they're hanging there. I'm just waiting, and like we have until here I'm in 6B, but I have until October 31st, so I could still get tomatoes coming. I have like almost 3 whole months yet.
Okay, she has flowers but no tomatoes. You're fine. You're fine. Hang in there.
So don't worry. The only thing I'm worried about is I wanted to sell those tomatoes, and I have to go back to work at the end of August, and I'm like, I'm going to be exhausted by trying to sell all this stuff and go to work.
I've got, you guys can't see it over there because I got so much mess going on in here, but I've got a whole island that's like full of tomatoes, and most of them are, because I've got the Brad's Atomics that me and you talked about a few weeks ago. And I finally figured them things out. So those are doing good. And then I've got little yellow pear tomatoes, which we plant every year because we love those. And then I've got a large and a small red cherry tomato. And then we've got sunrise bumblebees, and those are really good. I really like those. Those are sunrise bumblebees. My all-time favorite is sun sugars. And I didn't plant any this year, but they are really sweet. And I love them. I just walk through the garden and just eat them. I love them.
I did a lot of I did champagne bubbles. Luke from MI Gardener swears up and down that I would like those. I don't like tomatoes. I sell them and I grow them, and I like what they produce. I love ketchup and spaghetti sauce and marinara and all that. I tried my first champagne bubble, and I was like, Luke, you were all wrong. I do not like it. Now I will taste them because I'm still on the search. I'm still like on the search of, okay, is this going to taste good? Like I'm waiting.
What are you expecting?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm waiting for the tomato that's going to knock me off my feet. And I have yet to. And so we planted these sweetheart tomatoes, and they're in the shape of a heart. They're so adorable. And Dustin's like, my husband's like, try this one. And I liked the texture of it, but it still didn't knock me off my feet. So I don't know. Oh, my husband, I just ate my first fried green tomato and some fried zucchini. Oh,
yay.
Well, good for you. He had it smoking in here earlier. He had made some sausage in our cast iron skillet, and it was smoking in here so bad. And the fan, we had a fan on over there, and it was sucking that smoke into this room, and I was coughing so bad I could not breathe. And he's like, what's wrong? I'm like, I can't breathe.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, Lord. First for the season. Yay! I'm excited about that. He
We
wanted
have
to
to,
make it so bad he pulled a green one.
right? If you're wanting like I don't know exactly what you're expecting out of a tomato. I don't know if you like the acidity, that tanginess, or if you like the sweetness, or really what you're expecting. But you need to try the sun sugars. Sun sugars are little yellow cherries, and
Yeah.
we freeze dried them. Oh, they're so good. They are so good. They're so sweet.
I'm still on the search, so maybe I should grow those next year and see if I like them.
Have you tried Brad's Atomics? I'm curious about
Yeah,
that.
I have. They're not that hot for me. I don't like them that much. They're okay.
They're pretty flavorless. At least mine are that I grew.
But they're super fancy. They
They're
look
really pretty.
Yeah.
I've got some in the freeze dryer right now, and I want to take them to church whenever we do, because we do church meals on Wednesday night when school starts, which is like next week. But I want to put them out on the table, and so people can put them in their salads, even though they're freeze dried, just because they're pretty. They're just pretty.
Yeah.
Love them. But I wasn't amazed with those either. I was so excited to try them because everybody talks about them, but I think they just talk about them maybe because they're pretty.
That's right. Last year, my husband, I was doing a live. It was a pretty big live on my channel. I was getting ready. My husband decided to make hot sauce.
Oh my God.
He hot pepper bombed me. I had to close his door. I had to drink some water. My eyes were watering. I'm like, what are you doing? Yeah. Good times here.
The skin is too thick on the Brads. Mine isn't thick. I don't think it's thicker than the other ones I have. But I don't know. It's just kind of bland.
Yeah.
Brad's crazy cherries.
I am just looking. I've grown a pineapple one before, a pineapple tomato. I thought it was great, but the acidity in it burned my lips. It was just so high in acid. I was like, I didn't like it.
I want to say I've had that, but I don't remember growing that. I don't know. Well, like the sun sugars, because for some reason that sticks out of my head, the pineapple tomato, but the sun sugars are a lot like the pineapple tomato, like the flavor, like the sweetness kind of.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't think they were very acidic at all.
Mm.
If I had some this year, I'd send them to you. I had a volunteer plant come up, and I was so excited because it was where I planted my sun sugars last year. And I would doggone if it wasn't one of those stupid Tammy G's that I cannot get rid of because they keep coming back every single freaking year. I finally ripped it up. They're so prolific, and I don't like them. Like they are like the acidic tomato that has no flavor to it, and I don't like them.
That's not good.
I was so excited, and then it started putting off these little teardrop tomatoes, and I'm like, son of a gun, that's the wrong one. So I pulled it up. I was wanting my sun sugars this year, but I forgot to plant them.
I grew the tomato from Heck last year. We grew those lychee tomatoes, and I'm thinking, okay, this might be the tomato I fall in love with. This might be the one. They're kind of like a husk tomato. I didn't really know a lot about them. It's just that Baker Creek had them sold as like the tomatoes you can put in a pie. They're so delicious, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm going to try this. So we grew them. They had thorns on them, this thick, thorns. They were a husk tomato. The husk part was thorned. So I'm like, okay, this better be worth it. So I picked one off, and I pull it out, and I eat it, and it tasted like crap. And I was like, oh no. Oh no. I'm like, these have got to go. These are horrible. They were like 8 foot tall, and they grew like a ground cherry, but they were just horrible tasting. That you would think that they would be good. I was so upset. Yeah. So at the end of the year, my husband pulled them out, and he's like, man, I hope we don't get any volunteers. He's like, because we're going to probably, because we didn't eat them. So we just kind of let them fall and whatever.
Oh, gosh.
So we did end up getting volunteers, but we had to pull them before they became mature. Because if not, we wouldn't have been able to pull them because the thorns were just so nasty. So he threw everything out back. This year we had volunteer lychee tomatoes way out back. And he's like, I'm just going to let them go. I'm like, okay, honey. I'm like, they were horrible. They were probably one of the worst ever. They just had nothing. They weren't sweet. They weren't anything as advertised.
Bye, Robin. Why would you want to make a plant like that?
I don't know. I don't know if it was one of the original types of tomatoes out there or what, but it was very scary looking. It was very scary.
I haven't seen that one yet. That is funny. 54 varieties of tomatoes.
If Korky or Casey said anything about it. Said anything about what, Serena?
They're still talking about the coffee grounds.
Oh. I don't put coffee grounds on my garden just for the fact, one, I don't drink coffee. Okay, because it hurts my stomach so bad. So I don't put it out there because I don't drink it. Two, I would have to go somewhere and collect, and that would require effort on my part. So I just don't do it. Is that horrible?
Well, a lot of people call Starbucks and get them to put it in a bucket and go by once a week and pick it up.
Yeah. I don't know. I might do that because I do have a Dunkin' Donuts like really close to my house.
Just tell them you want the plain coffee grounds. Just take a bucket up there and just write, used coffee grounds on it and just go up there once a week and pick it up. Tell them you'll bring them some vegetables for it or something. Bring them tomatoes.
I'll bring you some tomatoes.
With thorns.
Yes, with thorns.
Oh, me.
But thank you guys. Thank you guys for hanging out with us tonight. And yeah, do you guys have any questions at all about what we're talking about? For one, we were talking about Blossom and Rot. If you had any of those issues this year, feel free to ask us questions because more than likely we can answer it for you. So feel free to ask. I know a lot of people have those issues this year, and it's so frustrating because you want that fruit. You want that fruit right away, and you get so excited because you planted something cool, and then it's rotten. So,
how big is y'all's gardens that y'all are planting 30, 40, 50 varieties of tomatoes? Is that the only thing you grow is tomatoes? Or are you planting one plant per variety? Because I got about 6 varieties and it's on 6 different rows. I've got cattle panels up. So my rows are like 16 foot long.
Yeah.
And I've got one full one on the front and I've got 2 behind it and 2 behind it and 2 behind it. And I've got like 8 of one variety and then maybe 2 plants of each of the other ones. And that's enough for me. And I do everything. I do barbecue sauce and ketchup and hot pizza and pasta sauce and tomato bacon jam and tomato juice, stewed tomatoes. I do it all.
When I've seen Cosmic Cultivators videos, right? And I was like, the garden seems kind of small, but it's perfect for them. Whatever floats their boat. They're growing all different kinds of crap, right? I actually go up there to visit them and I actually see it in person. Holy crap, it's huge. They have the biggest garden I have ever seen. They got things growing in a boat. They got buckets. They've got, anything that you could possibly think of. They have got it. It's growing and their garden is gorgeous. And they grow everything. And plus they have like a little greenhouse as well. And they grow stuff in there. Like I wish I had that. That's really awesome. And so
it's about 1,300 square feet. So is that 1,300 square feet of growing space or is that total? Because mine's like 3,500 square feet. And I total. But I have raised rows within that. I've got one big potato bed in the back. And then I've got 4 beds where I do 2 arches over them. And they're like 16 to 20 foot long. Okay, growing space. Okay, I don't know how much growing space I got. And then I've got 5 rows that are 16 to 20 feet long going sideways. I've got 2 sets of those. And then I've got my berry patch. And then I've got 3 large beds that I do my bigger stuff, like my sweet potatoes or my squash that kind of gets big and takes over. I kind of do that back there.
I was
300 square
trying
feet of growing area. Like I said, we're millimeter garters.
to find a picture.
Yeah, I do a lot of trellises and stuff too, because I don't want to be walking all over my stuff. I'm lazy. I don't want to bend over and pick it, so I grow all my beans on trellises. I do. I don't want to do row stuff and have to pick it. I did that last year. I did beans and peas last year in bushes, and it tore my knees up.
Aw.
Like, I have a stool that I use it's called a rocker, and so you can just rock and move however you want to, and it tore my knees up. And then so Steven got me it's a scooter. It's like a tractor seat on wheels that comes from Harbor Freight. He got that so I could roll, but it's a little too high and it still hurts my knees. Yeah, I have bad knees when it flares up. I've already had knee surgery and everything, and I've had a bad back, but I think I've got all that fixed. I mean, I've had bad back since I was 10 years old. And I've had abdominal surgery to close up my abs. What's it called? I'm a nurse, my brain frog.
Oh no.
Diastasis. I have diastasis. And so my abs were like 4 inches apart. So I got them all sewed back together, and I had a tummy tuck and everything. And it was for my back. I couldn't get it covered that way because, it's not for that reason, but I knew that was what was going to help me. And I haven't had back trouble since. So I got that fixed. Fingers crossed if I don't overdo it. But I do raised rows, whereas I don't till. I plant on top of the original soil, and I do all my raised rows. I use cotton gin trash because we have a lot of cotton gins around here. So I go and get the cotton plant leftovers, all their trash, and I bring it to my house, usually 4 or 5 loads, and it's all free. And I bring 4 or 5 loads and just put it in a big pile. And then as I need it, I put it on top of my beds, like compost top dressing kind of thing.
Nice.
But I can't use it the year I get it, so I have to let it sit. And every year our cotton gins always catch on fire because the stuff gets so hot when it's composting that they'll send out a notification. We need firefighters, it's such and such gin, it's done caught on fire because it's the compost out there. And I did, if anybody's interested, I did a series last year. It's called Homesteading for Free. And I go through how to do a brand new garden because we were doing it last year. And so as we were doing it, and I showed you everything, because my garden cost me $45 last year. And that was only because I paid the tractor to load my trailer up when I went and got the cotton gin trash. I paid them $15 every time we went to, just for, gas. But other than that, my garden was totally free. And I go through, I think there's 5 different videos. I do a fertilizer one. I do a soil one. I do maybe a plant one, weed barriers. I do a whole bunch of stuff, and it's all free. And I give you ideas on how to use it and, what you want to be using it for and where to get it. I did raised beds at my last house in the city, and I didn't care for them because I made them too deep. I made them pretty, but I made them too deep. So they sunk a lot and just kept sinking. And then I was stupid enough, and I'm sorry if any of you like horticulture. I do not. I was stupid enough to do them in these like 24-foot deep, 24-inch deep raised beds. I did horticulture, and they shrunk like 6 inches every 3 months. And I couldn't keep enough dirt in them. And I'm like, never again.
Yeah. You have to do what's right for you, because, and what the important thing is, are you growing food? Are you growing food for yourself? Are you understanding how it works? Because not everybody has the same goals and,
right.
and
right.
yeah, I know there's a lot of older people out there that definitely couldn't do a 24-inch bed. Like, they couldn't do that at all.
I mean, it was great. Everything was like waist high, but I couldn't keep enough dirt in it because the logs and stuff that we put in the bottom and all the tree leaves and everything that I found just right there, because we had the ice storm, so I had a tree fall, so we cut it up, we made the beds, everything was right there. It was all free out of my yard. I could not keep that thing full, and I was like, this is too much. I'm going to start working on doing beds that are at least 3 to 4 feet deep, because bending is not an equation for me. You better get a lot of dirt. And in my opinion, I wouldn't do that much deep dirt. And I'm sorry I'm blurry. I done got too close to it a while ago. I wouldn't do that deep of dirt. I would do some kind of vessel up off the ground. Your biggest concern is going to be watering, because raised beds like that dry out a lot easier. I mean, a lot. I would go ahead and put some kind of water system in, even if it's, drip line or something. Go ahead and put that in there as part of your situation, because you're going to have to water those things a lot, because it just dries out. Because it doesn't get the natural water from the capillaries in the earth. And so
Right.
it dries out a lot easier.
That's where Biochar comes in handy as well.
Yeah.
I'm very, very grateful that I put it in with my cucumbers in my cucumber bed, because the biochar holds the water. And so I feel like this year my cucumbers aren't drying out. They're not getting, I feel like they have been able to continue all summer long because they're getting the water that they need. So, oh, she's having an issue. So I feel like because of the biochar, I'm getting a lot more water than in those beds. And cucumbers really like to suck that up. Oh, here she's back.
Okay, sorry. I couldn't stand the blurriness.
It's
Hopefully
okay.
That's going to fix it.
I'm just glad your internet didn't cut out or something.
Oh, no. We have very good internet. We have fiber.
Oh, that's good.
I'm not that out in the neck of the woods. We are pretty sophisticated around here. There's not many places like in West Tennessee that's like that, though. I'm very grateful.
My county offers free compost. Well, you are super, super lucky.
Oh, that's good.
I would love to have some of that.
I don't know if ours offers free compost or not, but I know you can go to the cotton gin and get as much as you want. And you have to do it fast here. Now, in the last county I lived in, which is just 30 minutes south of here, we would go and get it. Now, they started milling cotton in, I think, October. They weren't through until February. So the best time to go get it is about May. And so then you could start on the bottom of the compost pile, because it would be 100 feet tall. It's huge.
Wow.
I've got a video on doing, if you search cotton gin trash, Boots and Bounty Homestead, you'll see what I'm talking about.
Okay.
There's a video about it. But I mean, it'll be 100 feet tall and hundreds of feet wide. But as you go and get it, the first stuff will be on the bottom. So it's going to be the oldest. And so when you start about May, it's already been sitting there 6 months, because it's back in October. And so we would start getting it about May and then run through usually September. And then in September, they'll come and take a tractor and scoop it all out to get ready for October to start doing it again. So in September, they would come through and clean it all out, and then they would go and take it and spread it on the farmers' fields. They just put it back where it came from. And over here, we thought the same thing would happen over here, but that's not the case. Like, as soon as they start milling, they're starting to scrape it off, and it's gone before you know it. And I'm like, wow. Where do they go? Where do they put it? But yeah, I mean, as soon as they're making it, they're starting to put it back on the fields. And I'm like, wait, I want some. So we have to call pretty early when they start doing it. I don't like the agriculture beds broken down.
I think the free mulch thing is a really great idea. And we get that from Chip Drop. And I still have a huge pile of mulch in my driveway right now.
Well, we don't have that around here. I've been on
No?
it for 2 or 3 years, and we don't have it here.
No.
Like, we're just a whole bunch of old rednecks, and these people, they don't get on their phones to get on the internet and use that kind of stuff. They just don't.
Oh,
Now, if you want wood chips, you have to wait until you see some kind of tree service and then say, hey, come dump that in my driveway, which I've done that. I hit up my neighbors. They cut down some trees across the road, and I hit them up, and I got 3 loads of wood chips last year. And so that was great. Not quite enough, but I need one more load, and I think I'd have enough to finish off my garden. I ain't even finished my garden yet. We can take our own containers and sift the compost. Rick, you were saying that you don't like the hugelkultur beds. I was filling mine up like 6 inches. It was nuts. Like, I'm talking 6 inches, like every 3 or 4 months.
yeah.
That's how fast it was
That's a lot
composting
to
down.
mess with. That's a lot to mess with.
I was like, eventually it would get too compact where I wouldn't have to do it anymore, but we weren't going to stay there that long.
Yeah. Layers and layers of cardboard. Yeah.
Yeah, that was in part of my homesteading for free video. I was talking about the weed barrier, the different kinds of weed barriers. Oh, look, there's my video. Thank you, Jay.
We have awesome moderators. Thank you.
Talking about gin trash. Yep, that's it. That's interesting. If you've never seen a cotton gin, and going and getting the gin trash, that's pretty neat to see. And we've got them everywhere. We have 3 in this county, and I think we've got 4 in the last county that I lived in. But I mean, I would almost rather go over to the last county that we were in and get that gin trash because they process it differently than this county. This county, their trash seems to be a lot more chunky. And it's not as processed. I don't know why, what the difference is. But over there, there's one county that processes it a little. I mean, there's one gin that processes it better than the other 3 or 4. So we have our favorite that we like to go to. It's only 30 minutes away, which we could do, but they're not there a whole lot to have the tractor available. And that's what sucks, because we have to load our 16-foot trailer with wheelbarrows and dig it up by hand, and it takes us forever.
Yeah.
When if we could get over there and talk them sweet people into using their tractor to load our trailer, it wouldn't take us but 15 minutes. Right. But they're never there.
Aw.
Thank you, Jay.
If you give me solid hints, leads, I will try to give a suitable link. Yeah, she's awesome. Absolutely awesome. We love you. So questions, guys. Do you have any at all? If you have any, put them in the chat. We will answer them for you.
Oh, shoot. I just remembered I planted carrots the other day and covered them up with cardboard. I should have went out there and uncovered them because it rained today.
Oh.
Should have done it.
I have so many carrots right now. We did lettuce, a giant row of lettuce, a giant row of carrots. And then on the other side, we did 2 rows of radishes and a row of carrots. And then my husband is obsessed with growing really giant carrots. So we have 2 raised beds full of these giant carrots. Excuse me. I'm still coughing from earlier, from not being able to breathe. And so I don't know what I'm going to do with all these carrots this year. I know he has to enter 5. He wants to enter 5 into the fair. But other than that, I'm going to have so many carrots. I'm like, I guess I'll eat them.
Speaking of the fair, I took 5 jars of stuff up to my county extension office to enter them in the Tennessee State Fair. I've never done anything like that before, so that was pretty cool. But I took blackberry jam, strawberry jam, peach jelly, peach butter, and apple butter.
Ooh.
So I took all 5 of those up there, and they're each going to be presented in, the category of the flavor. So I've got up to 5 chances to get some kind of winnings.
Nice.
We'll see.
I have some pictures that I took this year. I'm so sorry. And this is my first year ever entering. So I'm really excited. So I got some photographs that I've taken already this year. I'm going to enter in. My husband's entering the carrots.
Yeah.
And one of the categories was chives. Entering like your chives, your herbs or whatever. So I'm going to enter in some chives. Why not? I got tons of them. I'm just going to.
How do they judge chives?
You cut them off. You put them in a mason jar full
Yeah.
of water, and they judge them that way, I guess. I don't know. It's going to be very interesting. They judge mint, chives, all different kinds of stuff.
That's crazy. Well, see, Tennessee hasn't been doing a category for canning.
I know chives.
So,
I know you're laughing, but I was like, chives? I got chives? I'm going to enter that.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. She said that when I was talking to her today, when I took my jars up there to her, because the state fair is actually like 3 hours away. So what they've got it is like everybody from the outside is taking their stuff to somebody a little bit closer, and then somebody a little bit closer, and then they're all kind of taking it to the fair. So not everybody has to go to the fair. So I took mine up to the office today, and she's supposed to get it to the next county over, and they're going to take it for us. But she said they were talking about expanding it and doing like herbs and different things like that next year. But this was the first year that they have done the canning one. And I was the only one that entered from our county. So we'll see what happens.
I haven't canned anything this year yet because I don't have a harvest yet. So I was like,
oh, wow.
I can't. I would feel really bad if I put in a can that I have from last year. Like, I'm not going to do that. So,
well, they were taking stuff as of, it had to be made by August of last year.
Oh, okay.
So, I didn't even realize my husband had left. he's coming back home now. Oh, okay. Didn't know he left.
Yeah, Joey's doing great. He actually is home now. He's recovering. So everything so far is going really good. That's another thing that's been going on with Joe. Joe has so much stuff going on. He is he is doing this bus job, and he's in the process of doing this job. Then he also Ubers, but his son also had surgery, and he also has another job on top of that. So he has just been crazy busy. And so I told him I would take over, for this week or however long he needs until he gets like an actual schedule where he feels like, okay, this is okay now. Because right now it's just like all over the place. So Joey is actually really doing good, and I'm really happy for them. And it's the surgery went fine. I entered my local fair last year and won big in many categories. That's cool. There's no really winning big in my county fair. I think the top is like $2. You can win $2. But that's it. My thing is like I never entered before. I've lived here almost all my life, and I've never entered in.
We don't have a county fair. Our county's not big enough to have a county fair. There's a couple of, I think one of them, 2 counties over, they have a big one. But I mean, what I entered was in the state. It was the state fair. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we have a state fair, but it's 2.5 hours from me. So I'm like, I'm not doing
that's
that.
what I was saying. Ours is 3 hours from here. So. All right. That's right.
Yeah, that's right. It's worth it for the bragging rights. If my pictures, if my photographs get first place, I will be ecstatic. Like, I will be so happy. It will be, I can't wait. Yeah, I post a lot of my photographs on my Facebook. So if you see them, then but I don't really want to say which ones I'm putting there because I don't want somebody to steal my photo or something. So.
I don't know anybody flying, Serena. Well, Stephen and Logan just got back. I'm gonna have to jump off here, get them
Okay.
fed real quick so we can go to bed pretty soon,
Okay.
I hope.
Well, thank you so much, Casey, for joining me tonight. I know
Yeah,
it was
thanks for
last
having
minute, but I really appreciate it. And I'm going to go ahead and end the chat anyway. We've been on for an hour and a half. So I want to thank you all for coming in tonight. Thank you for hanging out on this Tuesday night. I will be on Thursday as well. We look forward to seeing you then. And it was awesome to see Casey from Boots and Bounties. If you have not been to her channel, which I think most of you know her, you're actually talking like you've talked on the phone or something. But if you do not know her, please go to Boots and Bounty Homestead on YouTube and check them out.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. All right. We'll see y'all later, and we'll see you on Thursday, and you have a great night. And don't forget to watch my video that I put out tonight. Bye, y'all.